Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of Unapologetically Christian, where you're going to find a whole lot of knowledge mixed with a tiny Mrs. Dash of sarcasm. What I wanted to talk about tonight was a topic that has come up time and time again in the church, and I wanted to give my opinions on it. And that is, has the Messiah returned? See here right now, and we just don't know it, or is he still waiting? And to answer that question, we have to talk about the Jewish people, because that is a key to realizing if Yeshua, Jesus, has actually returned yet. Right off the bat, I want to point out something that any of you can research and find out, and that is all of the false messiahs that we have right now. It's unbelievable. There are cults all over the world. I know that there is a couple that are in the Midwest somewhere. They believe that they are a reincarnation of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and they are a couple married, and they have a following. You have, there's a guy that is in, I believe he's in Sweden, I'm not sure, and he claims that he is Jesus. He has a cult following, pretty large group. They live on a hippie commune, cultish style in their practices, and he doesn't come out a lot in order to have interviews or anything like that. They're very protective over this guy, and I believe that he worked for like a patent office before he decided that he would be, or he was a mailman or something, before he decided that he was Jesus. There's also another guy, and he is in, I believe, Singapore. I'm probably wrong about this stuff, but I don't have anything to reference at the moment, but I can go into more detail if this video is actually, valuable to anybody. But it's an Asian man, and this cult following of his, it's a lot of his family members, and they believe that he is the second coming of Jesus Christ. The point that I'm making here is this: we know that Jesus is coming back, because as it says in the book of Luke, many will come in my name saying that they are the Messiah. It also says that if they say that he is in the desert, don't go, because he's not there. So we have to be really aware of these things. These are end time prophecies that are coming true. Do I think personally that Yeshua is here? The answer to that is no, not yet. And the reason being is because of the fact that the Jewish people still don't acknowledge Yeshua as the Mashiach or the Messiah. They still think that Christianity, as they know it, is it's a pagan belief system with a pantheon of gods or whatever. And what's really sad is that the rabbis don't teach the young people what Christianity actually is, or what it says. So a lot of Jewish people, they don't look at the New Testament. A good resource that I really enjoy is Jewish Voice Ministries, also One for Israel, and you can see testimony after testimony. I believe there's another one, it's called I Found Shalom. They have hundreds of videos up of Jewish people and their testimonies of how they found the Messiah, and very powerful and impactful videos. You hear these sometimes just heart-wrenching stories. Some of the most amazing people came out of that movement when it started around the 60s and stuff like that. Somebody who I really admire is Dr. Michael Brown. He is a charismatic Christian, And I know some people will be like, oh, charismatic Christians, oh, we hate them. Whatever. I don't put him in the same category as people like Kenneth Copeland or Benny Hinn or any of these other charlatans. Michael Brown he's a wonderful person. He really is. He's not out there trying to, spread prosperity gospel or anything like that. He actually has a radio show, a YouTube channel that has a episode of The Line of Fire every day, or Monday through Friday. He also takes calls. He has Thoroughly Jewish Thursdays. Really worth the watch if you have the chance to go over and to watch some of his ministry. But he is absolutely a Jew, born Jewish, bar mitzvahed, so on and so forth, who had no real idea about the Messiah until he became an adult. His ministry has touched many, many, many Jewish people and brought them to the Lord. The point that I'm trying to make here is this. Christians are supposed to provoke the Jewish people to jealousy, right? I do not believe, and I think it's heresy, this idea of replacement theology, like that God gave up on the Jewish people because of the killing of Yeshua and picked up where he left off with the Christians and the Gentile. I don't believe that at all. In Revelation, it talks about the two witnesses being the two olive trees. All throughout the Bible, the olive trees are referred to as the Jewish community, the Jewish people, and the Christians. Paul referred to the Christians as the olive trees. So we have to understand that the Jewish people, whether you have Jewish blood or not, I do, but that that doesn't make me better than anybody. But the point that I'm trying to make is that for people who are pure Gentile Christian believers and people that are Jewish Christian believers, we need to be banding together to provoke the Jewish people who don't believe in Yeshua, Jesus, to jealousy, to bring them into the gospel, to wake them up, because most Jewish people have never even opened the New Testament. They're told never to even look at it. I'm not, knocking the Talmud, but there are verses in the Talmud that talk about Jesus as if he was a false prophet and that he is boiling in a pot of feces in hell. So this is what young Jewish people are taught when they go through their Talmud, and they're taught from the rabbis and stuff. A lot of people in the Jewish community, they look at the word Jesus as a cuss word. And I understand, I do, because the devil has worked very hard to do everything in his power, to discredit the Word of God, right? So as a Christian believer, if you actually go through the New Testament, as a Jew, you see that it is a very Jewish book, very Jewish. There's no other, not even throughout the entire Tanakh, do you see, or the Old Testament, do you see a verse that refers to Hanukkah? Yet in the New Testament, it talks about it. Actually, I believe it's in Matthew. I'm not exactly sure what the verse is, but you can look that up, and it's quite interesting. Nowhere in the Old Testament talks about Hanukkah, but it does in the New Testament. So, just something to think about, that until the Jewish people come to an understanding about Messiah, or about Mashiach, being Yeshua, that the Messiah will not return. He will not return, okay? But we are getting very close, okay? So the organization that I was talking about, One for Israel, they had talked about statistics that at a certain point in the beginning of their ministry, several decades ago, whatever it was, that there was a tiny fraction of Jewish believers in Jesus in Israel. And now they're up to over 30,000 Jewish believers in Yeshua in Israel, which is wonderful. But that's still a tiny percentage of people who believe in Jesus as Messiah. So I suggest, if you want to see Yeshua soon, if you want to see Jesus soon, then we should be promoting organizations like this. Okay? We should be serving in the Jewish community, not to push the gospel down people's throats, but to open their eyes. And I think the best way to do that is through a Jewish perspective. So if you have Jewish friends, introduce them to Isaiah 53. Introduce them to Psalms 22. And read it to them as if you're reading the New Testament. It will blow their mind once they realize that you're actually reading from the book of Isaiah or you're reading from Psalms. Just little things to think about. I want Jesus to return. Trust me, I want him to return. Every day that I see the horrible, horrible things that are going on in this world, I want him to return. I see that the people of Israel are starting to wake up, that people that were in Africa, in Japan, these people who were part of tribes thousands of years ago are starting to get reconnected to the Hebrew people, the Israeli people. So I see that God is moving, but we have to face that until the Jewish people open their eyes to the Messiah and become one people for Yeshua, he's not going to return. Also, I want to point out the capital for gay rights and stuff like that is Tel Aviv. Okay, so there's a lot that goes on there. You know, I would have been considered a Jew-boo back before I got saved because I was a Buddhist that had lineage in the Jewish community. But I didn't know about my history as much as I do now. The point is that there's a lot that is going on in Israel that is not just a bunch of Jewish people that recite Torah verses and study the Talmud and study the Tanakh. It's not like that. They've fallen away the same way the United States has. Anyway, I hope that this has been a little bit enlightening. Please go out there, spread the gospel, but remember, if you want to do something to get Yeshua to come sooner, then make sure you're tithing to ministries that are going out there and speaking to the Jewish people. Thank you guys for your time. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. I'll do my best to respond as long as it's not nasty and negative. And enjoy the rest of your night or day or whatever, whenever you see it. Thanks, guys.